today's episode is brought to you by podup.com.
Let's be honest, whether you want to admit it or not, you've probably thought at some point to start a podcast. I mean, podcasts are fun. Podcasts are fun. You and I have a good time on here, Dan. Some of the
just get on, talk junk.
Yeah. I mean, it's some dark content. What we're talking about isn't necessarily fun, but we make it fun. We have a good time, and we would never even met each other if it wasn't for podcasts. So
that's true. Podcasts and Canadians.
Podcasts and Canadians. Little D&D thrown in there. I mean, change your life.
Well, there are about 5 million podcasts out there, and around 90% of those stop after just 3 episodes. That's including about 1.8 million that stop before they even start, which we know a thing or two about that, now, to be fair.
Yeah, we do, unfortunately.
Yeah. Quite a few still on the drawing room floor. So.
Yeah. And of those that do get started and past that 3 episode mark, about 90% of those don't get past 20 episodes. And there's a reason. Podcasting is hard. Well, successful podcasting is hard.
Yeah, it's not just sitting in front of a microphone and talking for an hour, even though sometimes that's what it is for me. It's recording, audio editing, video editing, social media, promotion, blah, 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 all the stuff that Kevin does.
And I do. And finding and paying for all that software to use can be just as big of a headache, not to mention expensive.
Well, with PodUp, you can have a one-stop shop for everything you need to take your podcast to the next level.
With 35 powerful modules with AI integration and one software, you can create, publish, grow, monetize, and manage your podcast with a simple, easy-to-use interface.
Everything from a site builder and recorder to editing for video and audio, live streams, blogs, and transcriptions.
Legal, newsletters, SEO,
setting up shops, getting ads and sponsorships,
managing your workflow, files, and even backing up your content.
Set up an account today and get 14 days free, and even schedule a demo with one of PodUp's podcasting experts to see how to start producing and monetizing your very own podcast.
And when you're ready, use our exclusive coupon code TORTURE15 for 15% off whichever package you decide to go with.
And if you're a professional that's even too busy for that, go to podallies.com.
Yeah, their done-for-you podcast production and marketing service will take care of the dirty work for you.
Dirty. We're talking websites, social media, editing work, SEO, all done for you. So you can just focus on being the star of the show, like me, and getting on with your day, unlike Kevin, who has to do all the work.
That's why everybody comes is for Dan. And this team of experts will use PodUp software to put your podcast on the map where it belongs. See, just they're using PodUp software. It's all one big circle. It's always coming back around.
Like opposite of a square.
That's right.
There you go. So, go to podup.com and podallies.com and use our coupon TORTURE15 for 15% off. That's TORTURE15 for 15% off.
Podup.com, the ultimate podcasting platform. The subject of this episode will be the continuation of Robert's reign of terror over the country's interstate system, a detailed and graphic look at what at least one of his victims had to go through, scaring a woman so badly that even with the police present, she still wouldn't identify him as her attacker. One of the most infamous murders with one of the most famous photos in all of true crime, the hero cop that showed up at just the right time, and the investigation that would span 2 decades to make sure this human piece of shit would never again see the light of day in our second and final episode of Robert Ben Rhoades. Kevin Young.
Red Barkley's my name. I'm a trucker, and I've eaten steaks from coast to coast with taters and toast. Thank you, Smudgy.
And this is torture. Oh, well. Oh, Smudge.
She's being annoying.
Yeah.
As usual.
Normally.
Yeah.
Normally. So how you doing?
Good. Good.
Good?
Yeah.
Good.
Drinking my bread. Eating my beer.
For all of those who want to know what he's talking about, you have to go listen to the extended episode on the Patreon. I'm excited. I finally got my new.
Nice. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That is
Brazen Bull.
fucking awesome
My
t-shirt.
Brazen Bull shirt. Available at redbubble.com/people/torturepod.
So we get my hat.
Yep. And my hat.
Ooh. You can't get
We're
my other hat there though. What other hat is it you're speaking of, Dan? I wonder. Well, Kevin, let me show you.
I'm excited.
Oh, you better be. Come on. I have to do a turnaround reveal.
Oh, okay. This is why you watch the YouTube. Oh my God, Dan is wearing a pink Eras tour hat.
Gotta rep that tay-tay. If I can't find any references to her, I'll be wearing it.
Oh, fuck. I saw... I'm big on... I don't have any, but I'm big on those, like, pop star t-shirts that are done to be, like, metal bands. Like the Slayer one that's Celine Dion. They have one that's Taylor Swift, and she's all done up, like, Dimmu Borgir style makeup and shit. It just says Taylor Swift across. I was like, God, I would rock the fuck out of that shirt.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Tay-Tay, hit me up. Send me some money.
Yeah, send us some money.
We've sold more tickets for this show than you have. So.
Well, before we get to it, which we have a lot of shit to cover today. This is one of those where I probably should have made it a 3-parter. I went into it thinking I know the story pretty well. This could be like a 2-hour 1-part thing and be done and over with. And then the more I looked into it, I was like, nah, we'll make it 2. And then when I'm finishing up the second episode, writing everything out, I'm like, this should have been 3 episodes. Because 1, there's quite a bit of information to get to, and 2, I don't know when to stop. Feel like, oh no, I need to put that in there too. And nobody's gonna care. Nah, I need to put that in there too. So
it's Kevin Young did George R.R. Martin of podcasting.
Dude, if I was to write a book, it'd be a fucking tome because I wouldn't know when to stop. The editors would be like, you probably need to cut that, and cut that, and cut that, and cut that. And no, fuck you.
But the part where he buys his potato salad is integral to when he has that character
arc.
arc.
If I don't talk about how the beer tastes like bread, then nobody's going to understand this one part on this page 3 hours later.
Yeah. I'll put a little star next to it so you know to double check to go back to that page. It'd be fun.
Yeah.
Whole book covered in stars.
I got my Space Ghost Coast to Coast wallpaper up today.
Nice.
Yeah.
I got my bread. My sliced can.
So first, I like to start with a correction from last episode. I had said that Dusty Rhoades wasn't yet wrestling when Robert met Deb and told you his name and told her his name was Dusty Rhoades. And even if he was, Robert probably wouldn't have known because Dusty was from Georgia and he wouldn't have been wrestling in that territory. Well, both of those statements are completely wrong. And I knew they were wrong almost the second I said that they were. Dusty was actually born in Austin, Texas. So he's from Texas. And he began wrestling in 1967, which is 16 years before Robert and Deb met. From 77 to 83, he wrestled for Vince McMahon Sr. in the WWF, which probably would have been seen all through Texas. So there's a good chance. So Robert knew of Dusty Rhoades, I'm sure, and he probably did steal the name.
Oh,
so
cool.
Even if Rhodes is spelled different. Robert Ben Rhoades has an A. Dusty doesn't. So I apologize to anybody who I may have hurt with my comments, please.
I'll forgive you.
I will learn, and I will do better next time. We also have a comment on our last episode from one of our patrons, Nevin. And he said I could, so I will. Great job as always, gentlemen. For the record, I've never come close to being offended by anything you've said. And when I told my wife that, I went, damn it. I mean, that really is our goal. I have a lot in common with both of you, except the wrestling, LOL. But it's still fun to hear people talk about things they care about. I'm sorry I don't interact more. I'm not great with tech. Born June of 79, I rode that Gen X millennial line. They started teaching computers to the grade I had just left all the way through school. Then I went to prison halfway through my first year at college. That kind of caught me by surprise when I was reading that, by the way.
Is this the guy we're covering on the podcast by any chance? Are you Dusty Rhodes?
Do you have a book written about you?
Yeah.
I went to prison halfway through my first year at college for selling pot and never made it back, which shouldn't be a thing. You shouldn't go to prison for selling pot. Unless it's like a We Are the Millers or the We're the Millers RV packed full of shit style.
Yeah, I was going to say, it depends on the volume
Mexican
of it, really, like, yeah.
Yeah, if you're selling, you know, a metric ton of it, then yeah, sure, maybe. But something tells me a college kid doesn't have a metric ton of pot to sell. They spend all their money on fucking books and ramen. So I can't imagine that they have.
I hope.
Well,
we'll wrap it up, people.
Yeah. So I never really got into tech till the pandemic, and I'm still learning and not real comfortable communicating online. I do appreciate the book tip for The First Law. It's fucking fantastic. I'm looking to get the second book myself. I just finished listening at work. It was great. One good turn deserves another, etc. I have a recommendation. Everyone Loves Large Chests by Nevin Aliv. I don't know if it's Iliv is the last name, maybe. I don't know. I know you guys do TTRPG. This is literary RPG, which admittedly is hit or miss, but this one's amazing. And they just keep coming. The main character is a mimic that becomes a warlock through a crazy chain of events, and his first familiar is a succubus. The early parts of the book one seem like bad writing, but it's because he's a dumb monster, and it gets better after the character levels up, gains intelligent points and familiars, as you do. It's raunchy, violent, hilarious. Promise it's worth it. Keep up the good work. Thank you for everything you do. Feel free to use any or all of this on the pod, which, I did. P.S. You haven't done war crimes in a while. Might be a neat way to start off season 3. Have a great break. War crimes is not one that we get requests for often because they're war crimes.
Yeah.
But, thank you for reaching out. We love it when you guys talk to us and we could, talk back. We won't be starting off season 3 with war crimes. Sorry, I already got the majority of the season figured out of what I'm going to do. But you're right. We haven't done war crimes in a while. I think the last real we did Pol Pot, so there's some war crimes in that one. Rape of Nanking is really the last real war crimes.
And that made me want to take a break from everything. So.
Yeah, you never even listened to the last episode.
No, I refuse to. There's only one redeeming thing about that last episode, which is that kick-ass lady, I can't remember her name, who deserves all the kudos in the world.
Yeah, she beat the fuck out of
Yeah. Fuck yeah, that woman needs a movie.
And we did Vietnamese booby traps, which aren't really war crimes, I guess. But, But if you want war crimes, I will give you war crimes at some point in season 3. But just remember, you asked for it.
Yeah. Thank you.
When you're listening, going, why are they talking about this? Remember, it's what you wanted, because it's the one I have planned out. It's as bad. I feel it's as bad as the Rape of Nanking.
I know who this person is. Right, this person who made this comment is hiding under an alias, and they are my sworn enemy, and they're getting back at me for calling them an asshole and a dickhead and all sorts of things under the sun.
Oh, no.
And that's why you went to prison. Not because of pot. Because you're a dickhead and you're an asshole. That's probably why. We know who this is. I won't even say his name anymore.
Do you have a famous girlfriend?
And he just wants to put me through hell of going through war crimes. We get another message afterwards going, ha, Dan. How's it feel now?
You heard the 3-part episode that we did on him, the 3-part series. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to sign up for their I'm going to use all the money that I have in my, whatever you call
Commissary.
it, in prison. Commissary.
Yeah.
I'm not buying any more ramen or any more Doritos. I'm going to get on their Patreon, and I'm just going to fuck with them. If you know, you know. If you've listened long enough, you know Dan's arch rival. Most hated enemy. Okay, let's get into it. The fun is about to end for a little while. When we last left off, Shana Holt had just met Robert at a truck stop. So what comes next is the details of what Shana Holt went through, as told by Alva Bush in Roadside Prey. As far as I know, it's all true. Now, it is pretty commonplace for true crime writers to sensationalize things every once in a while. I'm looking at you, Truman Capote, and say some things that maybe didn't happen exactly the way they did, or make things up completely. Again, Truman Capote. But from what I understand, this is fairly accurate as to what she went through. And since I don't want to pick and choose, we're just going to go through all of it. So for the next few minutes, life's going to suck for everybody. Trigger warnings abound. It gets dark. It might be hard to listen to. But like I've said before, if people that go through this kind of stuff, this kind of trauma, Dan taking off his headphones. If people can talk about this kind of trauma that they go through, come out and tell the story in all its gory detail about every horrible thing they had to go through, the least we can do is listen. All right? I mean, we could just hear about it because we didn't have to go through it. And for all those of you who did go through it, you might want to skip forward 5 or 10 minutes. So here we go. 18-year-old Shana Holt met Robert at a truck plaza in San Bernardino, California, sometime in January 1990. Shana was what was referred to as a lot lizard, which I explained last episode. Her father was a trucker, although he took off when she was 13, but she felt fairly safe traveling with truckers from state to state and city to city to meet up with friends. No one ever really knew where she was at any given moment. This was before the age of constant connectivity through social media and cell phones, and one could easily get away from everyone and everything when they wanted, which kind of sounds great. It kind of sounds magnificent.
Yeah, it's not exactly something you could do.
You cannot.
Nowadays, yeah, we were discussing this recently. I don't want to interrupt you. I don't want to for a rant.
No, go ahead.
No, it was something actually myself and my wife were discussing about something briefly, which was like an awful lot of these movies, fictional things, to do with people kind of practically roaming around the country and just wanting to disappear.
Yeah.
All set back like before the dawn of the internet, really. Mm-hmm. You know, when before, you know, you could just pick up your life, walk,
and go,
and just set up.
Just be
you
gone.
cannot fucking do that now.
No.
Yeah.
Nope. Get your burner phones and do whatever you need to do. They'll find you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good old burger phones.
Now, Shana sat with Robert at the counter of the restaurant inside the truck plaza, sipping coffee, telling bad trucker jokes to the waitress, putting on his charm. He asked Shana if she needed a ride. She asked if he was heading towards Arkansas. He told her he was going to East Texas, and that was good enough for her. So the two finished their coffee, headed out to Robert's truck, and Shana quickly fell asleep in the passenger seat. Outside the city limits, nothing around but the road itself, Robert pulled over, waking Shana. He told her he needed to retrieve something out of his side box. She could tell something was up and went to get out of the truck. And that's when he grabbed her by the arm, pulled her back in, and slapped her hard across the face. When the world stopped spinning, she noticed the gun in his hand. He had motioned for her to go back to the sleeper, which she did. Then she noticed the long silver bar with chains attached hanging from the ceiling. Robert handcuffed her to it. And this is something weird, because Robert likes handcuffs, and he likes to, like, switch between handcuffs. Like, I'll handcuff you here, and now I'll handcuff you there, and then I'll take those off, and I'll put these on, and I'll take those off, and I'll put these back on. He like, can't make up his fucking mind of what he wants to do. It's kind of annoying, but you'll see here in a second. Then he stripped her naked from the waist down and cuffed her ankles to anchors on separate sides of the sleeper, so she laid spread eagle. Then he got out his suitcase, filled with whips and needles, fish hooks, rods, the double-sided dildo. He told her not to make a sound and to be a, quote, good girl.
Suitcases aren't made for those purposes, Bob. Suitcases are for important work-related documents.
Yes.
What he should have had was one of those creepy doctor bags.
My wife sees her neurologist, an old school guy, and he's not a serial killer. At least I don't think he is. But one of these old school guys. He's in like his late 60s, early 70s. He has one of those old 50s style doctor's bags, the leather ones with the
nice
flap over, and you got to pull it open. You pull all these fucking instruments out. First time I saw it, I was like, "Holy shit!"
You pull out a cross,
usually
pull out the holy water.
Leeches in a bottle, some morphine, and some fucking heroin. You want some heroin about it? Oh, shit. And the good girl comment just kind of...
Yeah, it's just... Yeah.
It's creepy.
I wanted to wash over that a little bit, like you see, so...
Now I'm going to bring it back. Yeah. He grabbed a horse bit, again, just like the bridle. He shoved it into her mouth, pushing her tongue down and back, making it hard to breathe. Then he got naked himself and literally ripped the rest of her clothes off, getting excited as he pulled on the bridle to make her choke. Then he got out 2 straight pins and pierced her nipples. Then, like the bridle, he tugged on them, which is just...
No.
Dan shaking his head. He took out a long silver choke chain like you see on a dog and put it around her neck, pulling it tight. Then a second set of handcuffs were placed on her wrists, and those were attached to the choke chain, releasing her from the cuffs attached to the silver bar. Then he dragged her out of the cab by her neck and shackled her to the side of the truck facing away from the road. She stood there naked and shivering in the cold January air facing the truck while he retrieved a pair of scissors. And he began to cut off long strands of her hair.
That's so creepy, but I was waiting.
Dan's waiting. Like, the next couple words that come out of his mouth are going to determine whether or not I just turn this call off and go to bed. We're done. Here, look at the bread. I'm going. Leaving her hair to fall into the ditch. After he was done, he retrieved something else. A double-thonged whip. And as he lashed her back, butt, and thighs, she wet herself. He put her back into the sleeper, recuffed her hands to the bar. It's not clear on what happened next, but we know at some point she passed out. When she woke up the next day after Robert made his delivery to God knows where, they again stopped. He crawled back to the sleeper and reattached the horse bridle. Then he raped her, telling her how worthless she was. He got out the suitcase again. He took out the 18-inch double-sided sex toy and assaulted her both rectally and vaginally at the same time. Then he threw her on the floor, chained her there, and fell asleep on the mattress himself. Got up, left, came back with coffee. He came to the sleeper again and removed the bridle. She told him she had to use the restroom. He scolded her and pulled the truck out of the truck stop. After a long while, he pulled over, put the choke chain back around her neck, and like a dog, made her do her business in the grass next to the road. Just anything you can to make her feel
less not
worthless.
human. And,
Yeah. Now, on what was more than likely the third day of her captivity, he stopped to grab a shower at a truck stop. When he came back, he again had coffee, and this would be the first thing he would let her eat or drink since they left the truck plaza in San Bernardino. That evening, he beat and sexually assaulted her more.
Bodily fluids.
Yeah. Well, just
hey, look, I may as well go there. Like,
it's like, I know it's coming.
I'm fucking sitting here. I may as well.
He then placed a white towel. This is the thing. Remember, Robert has a thing for white towels, and I think it's because when the blood gets on them, it's more visible, and it's more of a,
stimulant.
Yeah, exactly. So he placed a white towel on the passenger seat and had Shana kneel on it facing the back of the truck. He then chained her to it and began to whip her again, possibly also shaving her privates. Then threw her back into the sleeper. He had been training her when and what she could eat or drink, which was sometimes his urine, like Dan had guessed.
No, that's not the bodily fluids I was thinking that she had consumed.
Oh, no.
I was going with a different... Also disgusting.
Well, I'm sure he made her do that too.
Yeah,
but yeah, he made her drink his piss. If you remember from the last episode, he had a thing with piss, with getting strippers to pee on him in Vegas and stuff like that. So yeah. How long she was able to sleep, and even when and if she could relieve herself. If she was good, she got to sit up front for a while, even if she was naked and chained. They traveled along I-10 through California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas.
I'm sorry, hold on a second. I'm sorry. I just got this mental image. Right?
Okay.
Apologise in some ways for laughing. But he let her sit up front even if she was naked or chained. So it was like fucking Mad Max motherfuckers crossing the desert, like the way they're sitting on top of the cars, like fucking chained up practically, Your man's sitting on the front of it then playing the guitar.
Well, I mean, it's really hard to see up into a tractor trailer. Yeah. They're really big, so I doubt anybody could really tell that she was in there, unless it was another tractor. Unless it was another tractor trailer. So, she heard him talk on the CB using the handle Dusty. Now, on February 5th, they drove to Houston, back to Robert's apartment. He gave her clothes. He gave her clothes and then handcuffed her wrist to his and walked hand in hand like a loving couple. Inside the apartment, she was finally able to bathe, although he made her stand there as he shaved her privates again. Then he strapped her into the bed and, again, raped her. The entire time they were there, which was possibly a day or two, he talked about how he was needing to, quote, get rid of her. And she knew that from the other women's clothes strewn around the apartment, that this was probably something he had done many times before. We'll get to what's the stuff in his apartment here in a little bit, and it's a lot. It's not like Jeffrey Dahmer with the big totes full of people, but there's stuff. There's stuff. He gave her some clothes.
6 blouses, 17 bodies.
And one copy of The Exorcist 3.
Yeah. And The Meg 2.
Which is a good movie. I mean, he gave her some clothes as they needed to set off again so he could make another delivery. He let her sit in the passenger seat, but he again put the collar around her neck and used the handcuffs to lock it to an anchor on the floor. However, we've spoken plenty of times on how most of these guys get caught because of a stupid fuck-up, and they get too cocky and make a mistake. Well, apparently, Robert forgot to close the handcuffs around the chain. Lucky for Shana, she noticed it before he did, and she covered it up with her foot.
Shana.
Just stuff like this happens. Just keep your eyes open on every fucking thing. Something's gonna, they're gonna fuck up at some point. You just gotta wait.
I actually question for you real quick then before you continue. So you're saying most of these people get caught because of a single stupid fuck up. What about particular people who seem to continuously make really stupid fuck ups? Looking at you, Mr. Patreon, that sent us a message, who continuously make these stupid fuck ups and still manage to somehow not have any issues. Yet this guy's like methodical about fucking everything until he doesn't put a handcuff on properly. Like the other guy would have people walking around his front garden, no hassle, like didn't give a shit. Like, I mean, he wouldn't have cared. Like, and he'd be sitting there literally throwing. I'm sure he'd have his victims walk around his front garden, throwing slurs at them, his own fucking feces, shaving their heads, and doing whatever the hell he wanted to do with them with fucking cables and shit like that. And yeah, he would never get caught. Cop could walk past him like, "Sup, Paul?"
Oh, he said the name. Yeah. He said the name. And that goes back, I think that goes back to the other thing that we constantly talk about with these stories is incompetent police officers, which we had a multitude of.
Yeah. Cinema wouldn't be the same without them either, so.
Yeah.
Hats off to you and your terrible service, incompetent police officers.
Thank you so much for being bad at your job so we can have a podcast. We'll get to the incompetence of police officers and the lack thereof in this story in a little bit. So he stopped at brewery to pick up his trailer for his next delivery, got out of the truck. That's when she grabbed the horse-bitten strap, ready to use it as a club, and jumped out of the cab and ran like hell. After what felt like forever, cars refusing to stop for the short-haired blonde with a chain dangling from her neck running down the highway, she came across a man working in his yard that was willing to help her, and he called the Houston police. So if you watch the FBI files or World's Most Deadliest Killers or anything like that, or Evil Killers, and you see her getting into like somebody's car, like she stops somebody on the highway, that's not how nobody on the highway would stop for her. She had to find a guy at a home that would help her. So just little things. Now, Shana described the truck and Dusty as best she could to the police, and the man/truck hunt was on. It didn't take long to find him. And when the officers asked Shana if this was the man that attacked her, she said, a lot of people would like to give Shana shit at this moment because after looking in his eyes, she said, no, it wasn't him. Many people probably think that if she would have just told the truth and just said, suck it up, and did the right thing, she could have saved lives. And, well, maybe that's true. Maybe they would have taken her word over his. Maybe he would have stayed in jail long enough for them to pin something else on him. Maybe some lives could have been saved, especially when you take in consideration that the FBI believed that at this point Robert was probably kidnapping and murdering up to 3 victims a month. But to those people, I would like to say, fuck right off. Tell you what, you go through almost 2 weeks of being tortured and sodomized, whipped, beaten, treated literally like a dog, made to feel worthless and that at any moment your life could end, every aspect of your being controlled by a sadistic monster, go through everything I just told you, plus God knows how much more, and then look into his eyes and say, yeah, he did it.
Yeah, that's it, people. You try marriage for a few months. Left it wide open.
Oh, fuck. That's my fault. I'm sorry, Allison. That lands on me. Oh. But she told the cops that it wasn't him. And even though the officer could tell something was up, he's like, I mean, are you sure? You know, kind of giving her the wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Are you sure it wasn't him? Without her identification, they couldn't hold him for anything and was forced to let him go. So the officer took all of his information and sent Robert on his way. There's really nothing else he could have done. Now, many nights later, while being interviewed by a sergeant from the sex crimes unit in Houston, she finally admitted to the detective that Robert was indeed the man that attacked her, but she couldn't say anything at the time because he was too dangerous. But since she refused to ID him at the scene, there wasn't anything they could really do now. It's like, okay, where you're changing your story. We can't go arrest him and be like, well, now she's changed her mind.
Unreliable witness and all that.
Yeah. And it was one of those, well, just fuck it, let him go. It's his word versus mine. You're not going to believe me. I'm just a oh my God. She just tastes the beer.
No, yeah, she's trying to smell, and she tries to sometimes lick me.
Now let's jump back a couple days. At about 14 miles southeast to Pasadena, Texas, where 14-year-old Regina Kay Walters had decided to run off to Mexico, allegedly, with her 18-year-old boyfriend, Ricky Lee Jones. Now, I have a 14-year-old daughter. And if I was to find out that my 14-year-old daughter had an 18-year-old boyfriend, I'm not happy with the fact that my 14-year-old daughter has a 14-year-old boyfriend. Like, physically not happy about it. If I was to find out that she had an 18-year-old boyfriend, he also would go missing. But she would not. Just him.
What we need to do is I need to fly over. And we need to get that boyfriend to come over. And we need to bad boys him.
Yeah. Oh, the wife took everybody swimming the other day while I slept for work, which was fine because I did not want to go.
And then he drowned.
Yeah, well, he went along. She's like, you guys can take a friend if you want, and he was the friend she picked, and she's like, I told them right from the start. No hanky panky, no like smooching on each other and all that. I was like, okay. And I told her before they went, I was like, okay, well, if he starts acting any certain way, or saying mean things or being possessive, you just go ahead and drown him. And tell you what, if he shows up to the lake, if you drive him out there to the lake and he's there, you can go ahead and drown him. just whatever you do, don't come back with the little fucker. Just drown him. I do not like him.
He probably listens to this podcast and he's just sitting there now.
I hope he does. Fuck you, you little piece of shit. I don't like you. Yes, this is a 40-year-old man telling a 14-year-old boy to fuck off.
Now, is he a dickhead because he's dating your daughter? Or is he a dickhead because he's actually a dickhead?
Some of the things that my daughter has told us has made me not like him very much.
Oh, okay. Well, that's different. Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily like him, whether he was a good kid or not, but... I wouldn't have this absolute disdain for him that I do.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of people sitting at home or wherever listening to this going, you are 40, grow up. And yes, I probably should, but I don't want to, so fuck off.
Yeah, dickheads. We play D&D. We don't want to grow up.
The fuck are you talking to? I was flipping through the channels the other day. I was trying to find something to watch because my food was getting cold. and you got to find something to watch before you can eat. And I was flipping through the channels, and Lord of the Rings was on. Could have watched that. Could have watched like a million other things, but you know what I turned on? Despicable Me. Because it's fucking great.
It is, to be fair.
And I laughed and laughed and laughed. Yeah. It was great.
I like some of I like WALL-E's like one of my favorite movies.
WALL-E's great.
WALL-E is better than Up.
Oh, man.
The first 10 minutes of Up.
First 10
some of
minutes
the greatest pieces of cinema history ever. It's
heartbreaking.
Yeah, that's 90% of the movie. Why people love it. Like once they go to the island thing, it goes really shit. It's not.
I wouldn't say it's shit.
It's not great though. It's not.
I think it is.
It's good. It's a great film, but when it's at that bit, I didn't really like it as much. But anyway, WALL-E is
damn near the perfect movie. It's fucking amazing. Yeah. But yeah, every once in a while, Steph and I will be like, you want to watch a Disney movie? Because there's so many of them we haven't seen since we've, started having kids. Like, the kids are old enough to not really want to watch all the Disney movies, so we don't watch them. But I'll be like, let's turn one on and watch one we haven't watched before. And we watched Coco a while back, and Coco, my God.
I keep meaning to watch Coco. It's like...
Jesus Christ, that's a good fucking movie. Anyway, back to
the rapist murderer person. This has been your Disney hour. The kid-friendly zone.
Regina claimed that she needed to go back to the house that she was babysitting at earlier to return their key. promising to be back at 10 p.m. However, 10 p.m. came and no Regina. The two lovers had decided to stay at a friend's apartment for a while, but a couple days later, Ricky saw a flyer for the missing Regina in a store window and freaked out. He was already on probation for auto theft, and if he got caught with an underage girl, he could get some real time, which you should have. She's 14, you're 18. It's creepy.
Not unless you got that Romeo and Juliet card thing that Michael Bay liked to squeeze into the Transformers movie that time.
Sure. So the two took off to Mexico, embarking on an almost 350-mile trip just days after the Shana Holt's escape. Now, not long after, they accepted a ride from a seemingly friendly truck driver. It's not known exactly how or when Robert killed Ricky, but just like Doug Zakowski, Robert killed him quick with gunshot to the head and dumped the body. Then, just like Shana and probably Patricia, Robert chained up Regina in the sleeper of his cab. Unfortunately, we don't have the same kind of detail in what Regina went through during her long captivity with Robert's truck and apartment. I say unfortunately just because I like to know information. It's actually probably a good thing that we don't know what she went through because you can only handle so much. Now,
but as you said, they went through it. We didn't go through it. I think we owe them to at least learn about it and stuff.
If somebody can tell their story in some way, I will listen because that's what you need to do. But I'm never going to be upset if somebody's like, I don't want to talk about it. That's fine because I really don't want to hear. But if you're wanting to say it, I'll listen. But what we do know is that sometime in early March 1990, Robert and Regina stopped off in Greenville, Illinois, not too far from where I sit now, at an old, all but abandoned barn in a field, barely visible from the highway, with her hair cut short and wearing a black dress and high heels. Robert took her into the barn, snapping photos of her as she walked backwards, hands held out in front of her to keep her captor at bay. Two of the most infamous photos in true crime history come from this. And I will post them on our Instagram. I say that a lot, and a lot of times I don't do it. I will post these photos on our Instagram. But most of you who know true crime know the photos I'm talking about.
I would look it up right now, but I have a cat here, so... Normally I look them up as soon as you say it. I will look them up as soon as a cat gets bored of me.
That's one of them.
All right.
Yeah. That's like the famous one with her hand kind of up and her other hand covering her mouth. That's Regina. In the barn. You can see the barn.
Yeah, yep.
Now, back to Spickles. Okay.
What is it with Roberts and Bobs? I'm looking at you, Robert Zemeckis. There's obviously something fucking up with you.
Now, after this, he cuffed her wrists to a beam above her head and apparently shaved her pubic hair. For some reason, I wrote down public hair. That's not right. And as many times as I've read through this, I never caught that.
This is a pubic service announcement.
He takes her up to the loft, to the second story of the barn, and does all this. Then he came behind her and with a garrote began choking her. Now, we haven't covered garrotes yet, but for those of you that don't know, it's essentially a wire that goes around the front of the throat and the ends meet in the back, usually tied to something rigid like a plank of wood. Then the wood is turned end over end, tightening the wire. Now, Robert turned the wood on this particular garrote 16 times until Regina's neck was almost completely severed through.
Turned her into her Pez dispenser.
Pretty much. He then released her from the beam and posed her out naked on the loose hay in the barn, and then left, headed back to Texas. Now, on March 17th, Regina's father accepted a collect call. The mail caller told him, quote, There have been some changes made. I cut her hair. She's got short hair now. When asked where she was, he told her she's in a barn in a loft. And when he asked if she was still alive, the caller hung up. Regina's father immediately called the phone company trying to get the call traced, but they wouldn't be able to get to him until the following Monday. So he called the police, who then instructed him and all other family members to record any calls that they get. At 11:20 that same night, Regina's mother got a call from a man telling her to meet him at the Stop and Go at 6:30 in the morning. He never showed up. That night he called her again, asking her to meet him at a different spot, this time that a Mexican had her daughter, and she went to a different store. The next day, he again never showed up. Now, there's some more stuff that goes into all that. Like he was watching and the cops were there and he was getting pissy, but pretty much she went where she was supposed to. He never showed up, and he kept terrorizing them through phone calls for the next God knows how long.
Dickhead. It's bad enough, like,
well,
you know.
Yeah, well, and this just goes, he just likes people being tormented.
I imagine
and this just adds on to it. You know, I got my torment with the daughter, now I can get it with the rest of the family.
I just have this
shit.
really horrible mental image of him sitting there calling them buck naked, and he's just like rubbing his nipple or something happening. There's been some changes made. You know, and he's just loving it. Like, he's got a Buffalo Bill on it kind of thing. He's just like, well,
some of the calls came from payphones. Not to say that would stop him from doing that, but the cops have been working hard on tracing the calls. The call to the father came from Ennis, Texas, about 200 miles north of Houston. The two the mother had received came from a payphone inside Pasadena. So he's right there. They also received calls from Oklahoma City, which is 450 miles from Pasadena, just a day before the collect call to Regina's father. Regina's father's, he got one at his business. Her grandmother got a phone call. So he's just,
What did he do? Fucking take like a Rolodex or some shit that she owned before he...
Well, we'll get to that here in a little bit.
Because it didn't have mobile phones, people. They have cell phones. That's what I'm getting at, all you young folks. Wait, maybe he got her cell phone, and he... No.
What? Well, now they're sitting at home going, what's a Rolodex?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has a fax machine sitting there printing out all these things. Did you get it?
Like, hold on, it's saying something. Oh, it's not good. The old paper, you got to peel off the sides of it and everything.
We got a telegram. We got a telegram from some guy in Oklahoma.
SOS over the train. So the grandma didn't understand what the fuck he was talking about. She kept asking him, like, what? Well, huh? Yeah, so that one didn't go over very well. But,
I said!
Now, all these calls at the time were attributed to Ricky.
Oh, of course they were.
Because Regina's father's number was unlisted, and only Regina and possibly Ricky would have known. This entire time, again, they don't know about Robert. This entire time, they think that Ricky has done something with their daughter.
Poor Ricky's in a ditch.
He's somewhere. Dan, I have a confession to make. I have...
Crabs.
Beard dandruff. It's close.
So much worse.
Nice. I know. Look away, I'm hideous. All seriousness. All serious.
All serious.
All serious. Me serious now. No funny. No Frankenstein. No fire. Bad. In all seriousness, many of us men with facial hair have some sort of dry skin under their face fur. I have particularly dry skin, especially on my face, around my nose, my eyes, ears. That beard and mustache They draw a ton of moisture from your skin in order to stay healthy, leaving the skin underneath sometimes dry, itchy, red, flaky, leading to the beard dandruff. And I struggled with it for quite a while. Struggled to, rein it in. Then I found thebeardstruggle.com. They use all natural products, never tested on animals, that your face, body, and beard will love.
They have day oils to protect your beard from UV rays and dirt and grime, and it keeps your skin from drying out. All the troubles the day can bring. And they have night oils to help moisturize and rejuvenate your skin and beard while you sleep. Not to mention, as of right now, they have 8 different fragrances. According to this.
That's what they tell me.
Yeah. Do you want to know what they are?
I do. I want you to.
Ready?
I want you to pronounce them perfectly.
Okay. Here we go. Ready?
Okay. Yeah.
From Alfheim's Forest, which has the scent of woodsy, leather and spices, to Hionir's Home,
Close
with
enough.
scents of greenery, amber and musk, to Valhalla's Gates, with essences of citrus, amber, sandalwood and vanilla.
And right now I'm using the Aesir's Triumph, which I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, which has the scent of sweet incense, tobacco, whiskey, and cinnamon. And my wife absolutely loves it. Of course, I haven't gotten one from them that she hasn't loved. So, and if you can't choose, just get the sample pack, which comes with 6 of their mainstay scents and 5 milliliter bottles of nighttime elixir, so you can decide what is best for you. But they have so much more than just oils: balms, wax, shampoo, conditioner, butters, cologne, natural deodorant, skincare products, heated beard straighteners, combs, brushes, shaving kits, growth kits, merch. List goes on and on and on. No matter what kind, length, or style of facial hair you have, the Beard Struggle has the products you need.
You get a free gift for purchases over $50, then you get another free gift for purchases over $100, and all orders over $65 get free shipping. You have a 90-day money-back guarantee, so you really have nothing to lose. And be sure to use our exclusive coupon code TORTURE19 at checkout to get 19% off your entire order. That's TORTURE 19 at checkout for 19% off your entire order.
Torture19 at checkout, or click on the link in the show notes. Thebeardstruggle.com. Do what's right for your beard. Do what's right for your face. Now, March 31st, at a truck stop outside of Casa Grande, Arizona, Robert met Lisa Pennal. After a discussion with the 27-year-old Pittsburgh, California native, where she told him some strange things like needing to get to D.C. to give the president microchips she had, and how she had belonged to an underground prison where no one escaped. Lisa had a bit of a drug problem.
I was going to say, is she that guy from The Walking Dead?
She Eugene?
Is she
yeah,
Eugene? Yeah.
Does she have a mullet? Robert told her that he was heading into Texas and offered her a ride. She accepted. And not long after they climbed into what the book and the documentaries agree was a Peterbilt, the truck that Shana Holt was in was apparently a white International, and they kind of debate on whether or not that was the truck he used. But they did this thing called like a slip seat, where you would take all your shit out from one truck, slip out the seat, jump into another truck, and take off, because he worked for a trucking company.
Yeah.
He didn't own his own truck. But anyway, she climbed into the sleeper portion and quickly fell asleep. She's not sure as to how long they were in the truck before Robert pulled off the road on I-10 just outside the city limits of Casa Grande. But she woke up with Robert climbing on top of her. Not without a fight. Lisa was able to scratch his face, and he took out his suitcase and pulled out his handcuffs. He cuffed her to the air vent, but she was able to get out. So he cuffed her with at least 2 pair next time. He's like, well, that's the way you're going to be. I'll double it. So tight that it started to cut off circulation to her hands. He also chained her neck. He told her his name was Whips and Chains, and that he really worked for the CIA and that they were hunting her down to kill her. Because all the,
What the?
microchip and president talk. Whatever. He took out some of his various toys and whipped her body front and back. At some point during the attack, she was able to bite him hard on the shoulder. And it's probably after this when he put the horse bit in her mouth. Just minutes after midnight on April 1st, 1990,
He said,
Arizona
joking.
Gotcha. Go on, you get out of here, you scamp. We wish. Actually, the police detective that's called to the scene was for sure that it was an April Fool's joke, and he was already pissed off because he was getting called at like 1 o'clock in the morning to come to the scene. And he's like, I swear to God, it's even in the books, I swear to God, if this is an April Fool's joke, I'm gonna kill somebody.
Like, hey Jerry, we got a donkey wearing a tutu down here, and you're not gonna believe this shit. Get down here.
But just minutes after midnight, April 1st, 1990, Arizona Highway Patrolman Mike Miller noticed the tractor trailer pulled over to the side of I-10. Now, before I continue, I need to say one thing that we had just talked about. Every true crime story has in common is 1 or 2 or 90 completely inept and incompetent police officers, from Jesse Pomeroy to Robert Hansen, Paul Bernardo, as we had already said.
Robert Hansen was my favorite incompetent cop.
Oh my God.
Oh, just so crazy Bob again.
I'm just going to turn around and look this way while you shove that piece of paper that we need for evidence in your mouth.
So, hey, Sheriff, some guys walked out with an RPG and he blew up half the town and said, oh, this old crazy Bob, don't worry about him. He's okay.
Bob stealing chainsaws and shit.
Yeah. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Let working out of his system. He'll be okay.
Yeah, our coroners that are coming into work the day after Christmas drunk and just saying, oh, yeah, they were probably just doing methamphetamine.
Yeah.
And shit. So, yeah. Yeah, just stupid fucking cops that fuck up and let killers get away. Or showing up to a house that smells like cooking human meat and being like, oh, he just burned his dinner.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some doozies on this show, and we've only covered a handful of
they're the sort of guys like they show up at Nanking and just be like, ain't nothing to see here. Let's keep going.
Look at all those bodies piled up. Nah, they're just practicing for like cheerleader competition and stuff. It's called a pyramid. They do it all the time.
Those crazy Chinese.
Crazy Chinese and other cheerleaders.
Those Orientals. Sound foreign and exact, just like that torture method.
Well, that doesn't seem to be the case with this story. Through reading and watching all the content in the story, I wasn't able to really find any bad cops. Of course, that could be because the author of the book Roadside Prey, Alva Bush, our main source for this story, was herself an officer of the law. And if there's one thing cops never do, it's badmouth other cops. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, these cops fucked up. Look how horrible these cops. They don't do that. They might do that like to one another. But when it comes to the public, they're a brotherhood and a sisterhood. They
Thin Blue Line.
They watch each other's back. Yeah. So there's no telling how many cops fucked up on this case. But you're not going to hear any of it because there's no evidence of anybody really fucking anything up. So take that for what you will.
I always wonder if after these guys are convicted, if they throw a party, like, we got away with it. You know, we managed to get through this as cops unscathed. Nobody's bringing any liability suits to us or any of that shit. Beat the party. Sure.
With like the Breonna Taylor stuff, her being murdered in her own house, even though she did absolutely nothing wrong. The cops just barged into their apartment. Do you know that story?
Probably.
Breonna Taylor. It's one of the many stories of black people being killed by cops in this country. But her boyfriend was apparently wanted for something, and they were in bed, and the cops pretty much broke into the house, and he got up. He had a gun. He's like, somebody's going to break into my house. I'm going to take care of it. And the second they saw the gun, they just started firing. And she got up to see what was going on, and she actually was the one who got hit and killed, not him.
Oh.
And the police pretty much got off.
Well,
I mean, I think there was some
shooting her.
They saw him with the gun.
Yeah, no. What way were they shooting? She's the one that got shot.
Well, some of them came through the door. There was I know there like one or two cops that were shooting through windows. Just an all-out assault, and she ended up getting hit and killed. And Jesus. Not a whole lot happened to those cops other than, I think, a few monetary disciplines.
Which they got back in overtime or some shit like that after the fact.
Yeah. Well, and then the city will turn around and pay any of those. The cops don't have to pay that shit. The city goes, we've always said that the policemen themselves or the policemen's union should have to pay those, not the city. Then that stuff would stop. But until then, whatever. Anyway, that's my tangent. So, just minutes after midnight on April 1st, 1990, Arizona Highway Patrolman Mike Miller noticed tractor-trailer pulled over on the side of I-10. Now, normally, this wouldn't be a huge deal. Semi-drivers regularly pull off on the interstate to get some rest. But Officer Miller had seen many an accident caused by drivers not pulling over far enough. Not to mention, this driver also forgot to put out his caution triangles behind the truck to give other drivers advance notice of the truck parked on the shoulder, which is law. They have little, I don't know about if in Ireland or not, but they have these little reflective triangles.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to go back a certain amount of distance, set one, set another one a little further back, set another one a little further back, gradually coming into the road. So everybody knows, hey, there's a truck up there, so we know to pull over. So Officer Miller pulled over, put on his lights, and went to search the truck. He climbed up on the driver's side of the cab and shined his flashlight into the window, and there he saw what looked like a nude woman chained up in the sleeper portion of the truck. Already shocked by what he was seeing, he was startled when a man poked his head out of the sleeper portion. Can you imagine? Be like, what is that? Holy fucking shit. It's just Robert.
Just sitting there looking in and
fucking thick ass. There's Robert with his thick ass glasses and his receding hairline. Just, hello? Now, the driver climbed into the driver's seat as the woman began to scream. Now, Officer Miller commanded the driver to exit the cab, and Robert did what he was told and immediately climbed out, went to the side of the truck, and put his hands over his head and spread eagle against the truck. He just got out, went to the side of the truck like
buck naked, blown in the wind.
Yeah. Well, he had jeans on.
I was going to say, that's when he found the caution triangles dangling from him.
Just dangling from the front.
Yeah.
He's like, playing a game.
Yeah. He's trying to warn
You ever heard of horseshoes?
Of the giant vehicle that was about to approach.
Now, Robert assured him that everything was fine, but the muffled screams from the woman from the truck made Officer Miller think otherwise. Yeah. Like, well, you say everything's fine, but she's chained up naked and screaming for help.
It's like, don't worry, officer, everything's okay. No, it isn't. It's like, no, isn't it? No.
Bring out your dad. Everything's fine in that truck. No, it isn't. Yeah. I'm feeling better. Robert informed the officer that he had a gun in his back pocket. Officer Miller took it out, cuffed Robert behind his back, and placed him in the front passenger seat of the patrol car and then put the seatbelt across him while he went and checked on the woman. That's when he noticed all the welts on her body. He covered her with a blanket and went to get the keys for the restraints from Robert. And just in time, Robert was already able to undo the seatbelt and had his hands cuffed in front of him, just seconds away from making his escape. The officer ran the cuffs through his belt in the back and recuffed him. He's like, there you go, fucker.
Yeah.
He asked he asked Robert for the keys, which were in his pocket, and after backup had finally arrived, they were able to free Lisa from her mobile prison and get her to the police station, safe from Robert.
Sorry, just imagine Robert sitting there cursing, having spent money on a decent belt. At that stage, like, curse this actual proper real leather.
And he's standing in Walmart a few months before that thinking, this is a good sturdy belt.
I was using a length of rope to keep my trousers from falling down, but now I'll go buy myself a leather
cut
belt.
off extension cord I'm using tied on it. Which I've seen done before. What could happen? What's the worst thing that could happen if I buy this brand new sturdy leather belt?
Use it for some whipping. Be grand.
Whipping. Now, in the interview room, she told one detective, Rick Barnett, and this is the part of the story where we start getting more and more into the police officers' names and learning about other people.
Rick Barnett sounds like a wrestler, doesn't he? It really sounds like a wrestler's name from like the 80s.
Rick Barnett sounds like a promoter. He sounds like a valet, like Jim Cornette.
Yeah, that's probably what's making me thinking of it. Like, yeah, that's pretty exact.
Which I hope Rick Barnett's better than Jim Cornette, because Jim Cornette is a fucking piece of shit. I will go on a tangent about Jim Cornette, you dumb fucker.
Tell us how you really feel there, Kevin.
Fucking hate Jim Cornette. He's such a fucking cuck.
I want to make sure Jim's the one I'm thinking of. Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
God.
he's such a fucking asshole. God, I fucking hate Jim Cornette so goddamn much.
Tennis racket wielding dickhead.
Now, she told Detective Rick Barnett the story.
She said you told Dick.
She told the dick.
She told Dick, Detective Rick.
She told him the story of how he had offhandedly told her that he had been doing this for 15 years.
Nice.
Yeah. They asked if he had raped her, and after a long pause, like a few minutes worth, she said, quote, "No, you guys got there in time." Which was probably a lie, but she didn't want to have to go through the rape kit and even more questions. Probably. I can't say for sure that it was. But knowing
it's quite an invasive thing, and she probably had enough invasion.
Yeah, and she's been through enough.
Yeah.
Now, when they interviewed Robert, he told them nonchalantly that she had initiated sex. Of course.
Well, naturally, that's what what the people like him know. The way that there's a common thread of them kind of. If they don't want to willingly sleep with you, then they call them sluts and tramps and all that stuff. So hence the reason what's going to come out of my mouth is, from his perspective, is like basically like, oh yeah, of course that slut or a tramp wanted to sleep with me.
And if she doesn't want to sleep with you, then she's a cock tease and because men are horrible. Now, when they interviewed Robert, he told them that she was initiated sex, and that, quote, "She is definitely not playing with a full deck. She ain't wrapped too tight," chuckling while he said it. About the whole, going to D.C., giving the president these microchips and shit like that. And the police kind of agreed. He's like, yeah, there's something a little off there, but...
so the Secret Service burst in like, "Special Agent, we finally found you. We've been looking for you forever."
She had told the cops the whole story, and then they're like, "Well, what were you doing riding around with truckers?" And then she told them the DC stuff and the underground prison, and they were like, "Fuck, that is not what we wanted to hear." Because
she was carrying the Weinstein evidence the whole time, and then this just put a whole shambles on it.
Yeah, it really. It hurt the case, but the police were still like, "Oh, I think we got him." I think we still got him. He told them that she had went to the sleeper portion, started taking off her clothes. Then he changed it and said she got, quote, "all loosened up," if you know what I'm saying. I don't, but whatever. She's in there stretching. She's like, "I'm going to do some wild stuff." Legs over her head. Hope you can handle it. And he tells him, he's like, "Oh, she got back there and she started taking off her clothes." And I'm like, what the fuck? No, you didn't. First off, that's not how it happened. You raped her or attempted to. Secondly, if she had gotten in the back and started taking off her clothes, you'd have pulled over and be like, fuck yeah!
Yeah.
You'd have been all over it. So don't act like you're you just shut the fuck up. He's like, oh, what the fuck? Not cool, man.
Gotta respect yourself.
Fucking, have you ever heard a good story of Jesus Christ? I have a little book that tells you a lot about him. Yeah. Did you know he was white with blonde hair? Oh, fuck. Now, when the detectives asked him if he joined her in the sleeper, he said, quote, I think that's about as far as I better go. That's like, he's full open, talking about everything. And then they asked him, and there's a video of it, which I did not pull up because I don't want to hear his voice. But they're asking all these questions. He's pretty open about it. And then it's like, oh, did you go into the sleeper portion with her? And he's like, that's probably where I should stop.
Yeah.
So they're like, you don't want to talk anymore? He said, no, I think I'm done.
He's like, what the fuck? Ripping off his clothes.
They let him know that he was under arrest and had to remove his shirt against his protest, and they took pictures of the bite mark left by Lisa. He was then booked for aggravated assault, sexual assault, and unlawful imprisonment. Now, once the story hits the news, Detective Barnett got a call from Detective R.E. Bomer from the Houston Police, 900 miles away. Detective Bomer was intrigued. Huh?
I just pulled a face.
Dan made a face, and I went, what was that?
Then he got another phone call from Detective Seymour Butts.
Detective Bomer was intrigued by the story of Robert being arrested with a woman chained and bridled in his truck, since he was just questioned a few months back in the Shana Holt case. It's like, it's funny you should say something about her being chained up, because apparently he's done this before.
Hold on a minute. So this investigation has already successfully gone across completely separate police departments across other sides of the country, like hundreds of miles away from each other. Even
900 miles away from each other.
Typically, two assholes living next door to each other can't fucking connect a single, not even a complicated jigsaw piece, but a corner piece. You know, like...
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
We could have been
now,
cops.
they exchange...
We do a good job at this. You know who would make a great cop? Tell you who would make a fucking great detective. Sooty, you little shithead. Make a great cop is Jesus.
Not the cat.
Jesus would make a great cop.
Jesus.
Yeah,
Jesus,
he's the only motherfucker that could find people called Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and Peter in the fucking Middle East. Back
in the Middle East. Yeah, Mary. Yeah.
200 years ago, whenever the hell it was supposed to take place.
2,000 years ago.
Yeah, around the same time the English started standing on our throats. Anyway.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Or like you look at Jesse Pomeroy, where the police chief didn't even know that he was back in town, and they lived in the same city. So, I mean, all that stuff. Now, they exchanged information and then contacted the FBI. Cross state lines, it becomes a federal matter. The bigger investigation would commence. FBI Special Agent Robert F. Lee was assigned to the case, and he decided to check Robert's apartment. He called the complex and spoke to the manager, who had apparently, just the day before, entered the apartment after reading of the arrest. What she found was several pairs of women's shoes and soiled underwear strewn across the apartment, and a section of silver chain on the floor. She had also found Polaroids of nude girls, women's jewelry, and sex books. Then she told him what roadside prey calls the bombshell. She had received a call just a couple days earlier from someone that claimed to be Robert's wife, and she wanted access to the apartment but wasn't allowed since she was on the lease. Apparently, Robert had called Deb from prison, asking her to go to the apartment and clean it out.
Fucking idiot.
Yeah, there's a whole nother chapter of the book where they just talk about their interview with Deb and how she She actually went to the apartment, but they wouldn't let her in. And then she calls the police station where Robert's being held so she could talk to him. And he's like, don't believe anything you hear, babe. I'm innocent. None of this stuff's true. I love you to the end of time. By the way, could you go clean all the shit out of my apartment for the police to come over? You are my one and only. Nobody else matters except for all the other women I want to fuck.
Remember to bring those bottles of acid. All the bodies are waiting in the bathtub. Ignore the smell. I just burned my dinner. That's all.
There's another guy up in like Wisconsin that's doing the same shit. Could you grab some barrels and just stuff those bodies in for me?
Or do what fucking hell the other Bob did and ask your neighbour to say, hey, no, he was golfing with me or whatever the fuck he said.
Cover for me?
Yeah.
My wife doesn't.
Hey, I'm being investigated for like a murder here. Is there any chance? We don't really know each other well. But do you think if the cops knock on your door, do you think you might just say, hey, no, he was out golfing with me that time. So yeah, sure thing, Bob. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Well, he was over here working on stuff, and then we helped build his plane. That's the best way to put it too. Hey, I'm being investigated for like murder or something.
Yeah. But obviously, I'm a normal guy. A little tick.
So they hurried to get a search warrant. 2 days later, the FBI was in the apartment, and they found black high heels, pantyhose, cosmetics in a paper bag, books dealing with bondage and sadistic sex, women's underwear, a long black dress, a blue flowery sweater, jewelry, a two-headed 18-inch dildo, photos of a young girl in shackles, incling
up until that point, it sounded just like my bedroom. But
up until the dildo.
No, up to the kid.
Oh, up to the girl in shackles.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. A photo of young girl in shackles.
It's called the All-American Challenge.
2 of her in a barn loft.
Ooh.
Bondage racks, eye hooks, and a white towel saturated with blood.
Ooh. He's a barber.
That's what it is. He's really bad at it too, because man, there's a lot of blood on that towel.
We found this red towel. Drip, drip.
Wraps it around the post outside. Barber. Now let's jump
White
forward.
Towel, barber. Red towel, murderer. There you go. That's how you tell people.
Put them together. Robert Ben Rhoades. Now let's jump forward to September 29th, 1990. A farmer in Greenville, Illinois, decides to check his old barn one last time before it is to be burned down as a training exercise for local firefighters. Around 5, and the fact that he goes in and checks this barn one last time is some type of fucking divine intervention, if you believe that type of shit.
Yeah.
Because if they'd have burned it down beforehand, they probably would have ended up finding the body, but it would have been a charred mess, and there would have been no evidence left. So it's kind of amazing.
And then the farmer probably would have been fucking locked up. So many times some shit.
Yes, without question.
Yeah.
So around 5 p.m. on that Saturday evening, he searched through the building to make sure there was nothing left of value. He climbed up the rickety ladder to the loft and began looking through the light covering of hay when he happened to stumble upon something he hadn't seen there before.
Somebody's burned
a
dinner.
Human body.
That's what that smell is.
Or what was left of it. He immediately called the police. The body, mostly skeleton by this time, with sparse, dried-out brown skin stretched over parts, laid face up with arms outstretched and legs spread wide apart, a wire garrote and board still wrapped around the throat, and a white thread that was snagged on a bar. It was snagged on a board of the loft, just out of place. It's just a broken down barn, getting ready to fall down pretty much, holes in the ceiling, hay everywhere, and then you have this body and one white thread. So I'm sure you can probably guess by now where the white thread comes from, since I've said white about 50 times. Now Dan's thinking. She was quickly identified as a female between 14 and 17, or 13 and 16, depending on what you read, years of age, and had been there for about 6 months. She would be placed in the system as another in a long line of Jane Does, approximately 950 fitting her description. Now, special agent with the Illinois State Police in Bond County, Mike Sheely, would put out the description to Missing Persons Department across the country just in case, including a dental chart done on the body soon after discovery. Under a month later, October 16th, Officer Suzanne Trammell, who had been working on the Regina Walters case since the very first missing persons report, received word of similarities between her missing person and a body found in Illinois.
I'm assuming this is the point, in the movies, when she would be sitting there at her desk, she'd be packing up to go home at night, and she gets up, she goes to walk away, and her email goes ping. Because they automatically get notified, as we all know from the movies. And then she walks back and says, I better just check that now before I go home.
Or it would be the police, it would be like the detectives, like, oh, we'll never solve this case, we might as well just give up on it. And they throw the file down, and they're like, here, file that. And she picks it up, and she takes a look at it, she goes, oh, but they didn't see that. And she solves the whole fucking thing. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, like when they open up an entire file or book, and they magically see that exact one little tiny phrase or sentence or thing in the whole thing.
Or, like, a picture falls from behind some sheets of paper or something that was stuck to it. Yeah.
Yeah, because people don't know how to open pages in the police department. Like, this page feels much thicker than the rest of them. Nope, that's just one page.
Well, I'll do a quick internet search. Who killed this person?
Yeah.
There it is, right there. We figured it out. Now, she called the Bond County Sheriff's Department for more information on the body. She let Agent Sheely know about the phone calls and how the caller said he had left her in a barn. The dental records would confirm their suspicions. It was indeed Regina Walters. They began looking for Ricky Jones. They're still on this whole, Ricky did it.
It was Ricky Stanicky.
Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, it's fun.
Is it good?
It's put it this way, it's rated really poorly on IMDb, right? But it is exactly what you think it's going to be. As long as you go, it's one of those films. As long as you go into it knowing exactly what it is, you'll be fine with it. Is it amazing?
I don't care about rating.
Is it fun?
Don't go into something thinking it's going to be Citizen Kane, and then it turned out to be fucking, Ricky.
This is sometimes some of the issues I find with like the likes of IMDb, where as far as I'm concerned, if something is rated like 7.2 or above on IMDb, it's fucking awesome. It's going to be absolutely brilliant because too many people have really, really piss poor opinions. I read a review somebody did, not to digress too much, that somebody put up giving out shit on a show or a movie going on about sexual content in it, saying it was too severe, it was this, it was that, blah, 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 all this other stuff. 2 people kissed in it. That was their problem with it. It was obviously some fucking Christian
some woman,
sitting there going,
I
can't subject my kids to be watching this.
She has a very particular haircut. She has a very particular way she dresses. I'm sure she has a Stanley thermos or Stanley cup that she carries into her yoga class, where she doesn't actually do the yoga. She just talks to everybody in it.
Yeah. The start of her first name is very similar to another word for automobile. I assume that's who we're talking about. No, they're not all Karens.
That's what we're talking. That's how we're talking. Yeah.
Damn.
Anyway, back to the horribleness. December of that year, Robert was found guilty and sentenced to 6 years for kidnapping and sexual assault. This would give the authorities at least a couple years to look further into his past to see if they couldn't find out what happened to the girl in the photos. Now, almost a year later, the Walters case was handed off to Houston FBI agent Mark Young, no relation, just so you know.
He's not a real FBI agent. He has a surname like Steele or something. Mark Steele is on the case.
He started looking into Regina's disappearance. He re-interviewed everyone he could, and when hearing about the long-distance phone calls to the father and how the caller talked about a barn, he remembered hearing Special Agent Lee talk about a trucker having photos of a young girl in a barn. So the two agents went to the FBI's evidence vault and pulled the box containing the photos from Robert's apartment. Lee quickly called Officer Trammell, who agreed that they greatly resembled Regina. The family was then able to identify Regina from the pictures, and Agent Sheely was able to identify the barn in the pictures as the barn the body was found in. They were then able to, through the photos of the items found in Robert's apartment and the many photos taken of Regina, also found in his apartment, match the handcuffs, chains, silver choke chain, black high heels, black dress, blue flower sweater, and a white towel. Again, the white thread found in the barn.
Missing exactly one thread.
One thread. This is Egyptian cotton.
That's it. We got him.
It's a 3,000 thread count.
2,000.
This only has 2,999.
I guess we reached the end of his rope. I kind of thinking there that all this just seems uncharacteristically perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
it's like every single. It's like one of these things where you have like this. Like where you have like people across like a multiverse that are all living the same life except everything's slightly different. Like that thing, like nearly like Three Bodies or whatever it was called. I don't know. It must give you
that three body problem.
It's not. It's not Three Body. I don't know. I'll double check the name of the show anyway. And send on to it, right. So, but anyway,
okay.
It's nearly like they all wake up that morning. They all go through their normal routine. They all have their showers, and then they go and they make their coffee, and they stand there looking out across the great freedom of the United States, eagles flying past, and they're gonna like, I'm gonna be a good cop today. And then they go out and they solve one of the biggest crimes in the last 20 years.
I'm gonna save a life today.
Yeah. My name is Mark Steele. Today, I'm going to arrest a murderer.
And then the wife is in the background.
Fools, bitch.
The wife is in the background. Sweetie, you've been after this man for a long time. I have to catch him.
I found out about him yesterday at lunchtime.
Today's the day. Now, keep in mind, again, a police officer did write the book. And when interviewed on the world's most evil killers and all that, on the FBI files and everything, it is these police officers that they're talking to. So everything just kind of lines up perfect.
They put,
I'm not saying
they put Deputy
happen.
Doofus into the press out of the way so nobody would see him fucking sitting there. So he's been sitting on this case for the last 15 years. Robert walked past him when they said, "Hi, I'm a murderer. I like to rape people."
It's Doofy from Scary Movie.
Yeah. he's like, "Hi, guys." It's like, this guy told me today he was a murderer. And they're like, "Oh, go away, Doofy. It's okay. Smell my finger."
And so these detectives, police officers, special agents aren't going to come on, TV or whatever and talk about how much they fucked up and all those. I'm not saying that they did. Things could have gone just perfectly over the course of a handful of years, because this wasn't just this happens. It takes months and years for all this stuff to come together. We're just kind of jumping over it because a lot of boring shit happens between them.
See what happened? They were making their murder board and they ran out of red string in the middle of it, you see. So they couldn't connect the dots. So that's why it was taking them so goddamn long.
And then Mark Steele goes and grabs a white one and he's like, the white thread. It was Robert Ben Rhoades.
And then that was the name of the movie. The White Thread.
Yep.
There you go,
The White
people.
Thread.
We just wrote it for you. Go on.
Based on a true story.
Make that shit. Fucking, what's his name? Michael Bay.
Starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Jesse Eisenberg, and Richard Gere.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds like an epic movie.
It doesn't.
You have to get Mark Wahlberg in there just to annoy you.
Just to say Transformers?
Yeah, Transformers. Go to Fenway Park.
He transformed. He transformed
Must
from
be a
this trucker to
transformer.
a serial killer. He's almost like he's a transformer. Anyway, we're having fun, but people died. Now, all this, along with how Lisa Pennal was found in his truck, they were all but certain that they had themselves a serial offender in Robert Rhoades. But what about Ricky Jones? That's the name of the movie. What about Ricky?
Yeah.
Like, what about Bob? It's got Bill Murray.
Yeah.
What about Ricky Jones?
Poor Ricky.
Yeah, poor Ricky, because he gets...
It'd be like The Hangover, and then eventually they find him instead of on the roof of the casino. He's in the ditch. Poor Ricky.
We'll say
he
what
is.
they find here in a little bit.
Okay.
when
He
Robert
rammed him into
was
the fucking
arrested...
fuel tank of a truck. That's what he did, I guess.
When Robert was arrested in Arizona, they had taken into evidence a small green spiral notebook. Now, they didn't really look into it much, which this kind of goes along with the bad cop stuff. Maybe you just look
Coach
through
Rod
everything.
No.
Notebook.
Yeah.
Notebook with the name of a missing girl on it. Don't need it.
Photographs.
18-inch dildo.
Yeah.
Put that in the back for later.
We're looking for white threads, people. White threads.
Anybody seen a white
yeah.
thread? A single. Well, here's a towel with blood on it. No, I just need
white.
one thread. It's just a notebook. So when they realized who Robert was, possibly, they started looking at everything a little closer. Now, at the top front cover was scribbled Regina's. And on the inside cover was written Regina Kay Walters with the address and phone numbers of her father, her mother, her father's work number, and even her grandmother. So there
and
you
the
go.
GPS coordinates to where Ricky's body was.
Well, the next 4 pages had a different style of handwriting, almost in code. Quote, Exit 99 Service Road. Fun and Hide. East 204. Trees. Water? ? West 301 Water Tank.
Robert doesn't know
West
what water is.
210 Shock. He's like, is that water? I strictly drink beer. Is that water? And the last page of the notebook, there was, and this goes along with what we talked about the first episode about how childish and how he turned into just a big fucking baby. This kind of goes along with this whole child mentality. There was a drawing of a handgun and a large knife with blood dripping off of the blade, with the word blood was written above the gun. And across the page was written, with each letter drawn to look like blood dripping, was Ricky's a dead man. Remember when you were a kid and you wanted to make things look eerie, so you drew everything with like blood dripping off because you're... Well, I say that knowing that the logo of this show has a blood drop dripping off a giant
That's because we're teenagers. We're fucking kids. Nowadays you choose the Thriller font and word. That's what you do.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and I didn't draw that blood droplet. I went into Google and searched blood droplet.
That doesn't look like a
transparent background, and I superimposed it in. I did the work.
Good man.
Finally, in early 1992, the district attorney in Bond County, Illinois, issued an arrest warrant for Robert just before he was to be released from prison in Arizona on parole. I mean, literally days before he's getting ready to leave, they come arrest him from prison.
Nice. You should let him walk out first. Let him think he was getting off out there. And as he walks off, just having a paddy wagon door open. Like, come on, Bob.
It would have been great. It would have been great.
You heard you like handcuffs.
A whole bunch of interviews take place with him and the district and district attorney and all that. But we're just going to kind of cut it down for time. On September 11th, 1992, Robert agreed to a plea bargain. he would admit to the kidnapping and murder of Regina Walters on the condition that the death penalty be taken off the table. Robert was sentenced to life in prison. But it doesn't end there.
Pick it up in part 3. This is
No.
torture.
No. Knowing that he had been out and about possibly killing for the better part of 2 decades, they went looking for more victims, which jumps us up to 2003 and Texas Ranger Brooks Long, who started investigating the disappearance.
I'm sorry.
Brooks
Law.
Brooks Long.
Oh, I just said law.
Not law. Long.
I was in opposite of short. Okay.
Okay.
Partners with
He started
Mark Steele.
investigating the disappearance of newly married Patricia Candace Walsh and Douglas Scott Zakowski. Douglas had been found just days after he was killed and identified soon with dental records. Patricia, unfortunately, wouldn't be found for months by deer hunters and was still, in 2003, unidentified. Well, Ranger Long decided he wanted to look at the ballistics evidence found at the scene of Douglas's death. They knew that he had been killed with a Jennings J22 handgun, if you remember from the first episode, because of the bullets and casings found at the scene. This particular ammunition was very rare. Each piece of ammunition has a head stamp, which gives a multitude of information. The maker, the caliber, the area of origin. And this particular set of ammunition was stamped with a T for Tarson. Not torture. We didn't have anything to do with this.
It had a little blood drop coming out, but your man's
little
like,
blood droplet.
Suppose I got it from Google.
Come looking for us.
Yeah.
You were the real criminals.
Yeah.
Which meant it was probably from Spain, Switzerland, or Russia. And this initially ruled out Robert of being the killer because the ammo that was found in Robert's truck was marketed under the name Arms Corps, which wouldn't be stamped with a T. It was in a little box that said Arms Corps. And here again, we come to the
with
whole...
a U, an S, and an A.
There's a little eagle holding the rifle.
Every time you shoot it.
This brings us back to the whole maybe there were bad cops because the box was an Arms Corps box. But did nobody ever open up the box to look at the actual ammunition that was inside?
Why would you?
Well, I don't know.
Like,
Maybe...
why would you check the evidence?
Why would you look deeper than just box ammo? Throw that in the... Another dildo. Throw that in the back. Now, Ranger Long decided to contact the Casa Grande police to see if he could get a better look at the ammo that was found in Robert's truck. He asked the officer on the phone if he could open up the box and describe what it looked like. And wouldn't you know it, the fucking casing had T's on them. So now he, oh, I know, dun, dun, dun. So now he had a possible connection between Robert and Douglas. So he put his energy into finding Patricia. Well, it just so happens that there was an unidentified body in Millard County, Utah, that met the description. Again, through dental records, they were able to identify Patricia as the remains that sat inside the Millard County evidence vault. And along with her remains, there was also the ammo and casings that were used to murder her. And take a wild guess on what was on them.
Not a U, an S, or an A.
Not a U, an S, or an A. No, it was a T. Follow along.
It was a single white thread.
It was a single white thread. Now, this wouldn't be enough to pin the murders on Robert, however. If you remember from what seems like an hour ago, Shana Holt had spoken about how Robert used white towels, even though we keep bringing it up. Well, there just happened to be a white towel found in Robert's truck the night he was arrested. This particular white towel just happened to contain the DNA of a one Patricia Candace Walsh.
No.
Yeah. Now, I don't want you guys to think that this was I'm going to go find out what happened to these people 5 minutes later. Figured it out, like we've been talking about. This was an investigation that took the better part of a decade to finally nail down.
All because they didn't open the notebook and they didn't open up the box of ammo. Sitting on this shit
Did you
for 10
Google
years.
anything?
Yeah.
This started in he started his investigation part of it in 2003. All right? It took the better part of a decade for them to finally nail down what happened to the two of them, who did it, and to gather enough evidence to pin it on Robert. So by March of 2012, Robert had spent 20 years in prison for Regina's murder and was up for parole. Before he was to be released, investigators rushed to prove to a grand jury that he had indeed killed the two newlyweds. Luckily, they did. He was extradited to Texas to face trial for 2 more murders. He again decided to plead guilty under the condition that he be sent back to Illinois and have the death penalty taken off the table. He received multiple life sentences. Now, as far as Ricky Jones goes, Ranger Long had a DNA test done on some teeth that had been found in Mississippi. He had them tested against Ricky's birth mother, and it was a match. But since they couldn't find the whole body or any real evidence, Robert was never charged with the murder. It's just teeth. Can't do a whole lot. Now, the FBI has since been looking into more murders possibly done by Robert Ben Rhoades, victims that fit not only his MO and profile, but also the correct timeline and area of where he would have been during these times, even though there were a number of other serial murderers active at this time in these places. The FBI still feels strongly that the 3 people Robert was convicted of killing is a small percentage of his total, that they put that number closer to 50. But regardless, 78-year-old Robert Ben Rhoades will spend the rest of his miserable life in Menard Correctional Center in Chester, Illinois, a mere 91.7 miles from where I sit right now. So technically, in an hour and a half, I could be at that jail interviewing Robert Ben Rhoades. saying, hey, just play the podcast for him and be like, what do you think of that, huh? You big piece of shit. What do you think of that?
Dan thinks you're a prick.
We call you a little bitch because that's what you are.
If you shout dickhead loud enough from there, he might hear you.
Yeah.
Walk in. What you should do, you should go visit him. And walk in with a single white thread. And be like, hold it up.
Just throw it down on the ground.
Yeah.
Or just throw it down on the table. Be like, what do you think of that?
Yeah.
The bane of your existence right there, that white thread. He's just sitting there going, not the white towels.
My one weakness.
So yeah, okay, Ranger Long hears that there's a body in Millard County, Utah. I don't want you thinking that it was like, I'm looking into this lady's death. Well, there's a body in Utah. It's probably her. Now, a lot of I'm just really minimizing the amount of police work that went for time. The amount of police work that went into figuring this out. It's
you did the movie script version of it, which is fair enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I did the Law and Order SVU version.
Yeah, not the Cimmerian.
You were raped today? Well, he's going to be in jail tomorrow. That's not how it works. That's the one thing I hate about Law and Order. I love Law and Order.
And
Law and Order is fun to watch.
It's like, we got this DNA in there. Don't worry about it.
He's in prison the next day. Yeah.
In reality, 16 months later, we're still waiting on your test results.
It's enhanced. Enhanced. There he is. We see him. You can see the color of his eyes from 3 miles away.
My favorite
the thing I hate about
ever
Law and
is
Order
the
of the Mutt
blurry images when they put them into the computer.
Yeah.
I love that shit. I fucking hate that shit.
When they go from somebody saying, "Oh, this person did this to me," to the arrest, to the grand jury, to the actual trial, in the course of like a week and a half.
Yeah.
And that's not how long things take.
Yeah, with
These
the amount of
things take
cases that those
years.
people did realistically, and the amount of episodes and all that stuff, most of those people would be long dead of old age, and somebody else would be taking up the mantle.
Yeah,
because you would not
those
work
things take
that
years
many
to
cases.
do.
Yeah, unless you're working them
it
all
drives me crazy.
in concurrently, in the sense that, like, you know, they obviously don't show that. You know, like, in the sense that, like, you would be working more than one case, but you get what I'm saying.
But like,
you won't be sitting there focusing
on
purely that one. You know, hold on a minute.
How great would it have been to like record, like do the episodes of where they're catching the guy back when Marissa Hargitay was super young still, and Elliot Stabler was on there, and then like wait 4 years and then record or tape the I keep saying record, then tape the actual trial.
Yeah.
That way you could show one part of it, and then 4 years later when it comes to, oh, remember when this happened 4 years ago? And everybody's like, no.
Whereas now the guy who's wearing the same fucking pair of underwear he was wearing when he's arrested. He's in that quickly, like.
We're just gonna expedite it. Just, did he do it? Yes, throw him in prison.
Yeah.
Oh.
We got
Anyway.
all the evidence.
There you go. Dan, I know we covered a little bit of pop culture last time. Do you have any more pop culture, or is it still...
Well, obviously that movie we already covered is the big one, where it's like the only movie directly to do with that, which is what's it called? Yeah, The Midnight in the Switchgrass, which we both know will be an absolutely amazing piece of shit. I'm going to have to watch it. But to be fair, though, the whole truck stop thing is used in a lot of things as a basis for that same kind of concept, you know, like even like let's say like Supernatural, they did it in that when it was like fucking vampires taking people from taking lot lizards and stuff like that. You know, it's not an uncommon thing, and the whole concept of people, say, picking up people and killing them, might not.
The missing hitchhiker is a pretty old story, and he's not the only person who drove a truck that kidnapped women and killed them. He might have been the worst, and he might have had it down. I don't want to say to a science, but had a routine down more. But there were other truck stop killers out there at the time, and since.
But back then, especially, I think again in the world where it's very easy for you to disappear in a country that is in itself a fucking continent, like, you know what I mean, like your own country is the same size as fucking Europe or whatever. Yeah, it's super simple for somebody to just up and vanish and be forgotten about and never heard from, seen again, all that old shit. So for people, it makes it very easy for people doing that sort of thing to be able to do it. And the likes of truck stops where people congregate, but people kind of keep to themselves, especially because, like, you know, it might be a bit of a what's the word I'm trying to think of, a cliche or whatever like that like, oh yeah, all these trucks are stopped here, so therefore they're picking up hookers and stuff like that, whatever you see in movies and shows all the time. But like, people would probably ignore an awful lot of what's happening, you know, like because of
you keep to yourself.
Exactly.
Unless you are yourself getting a prostitute or a sex worker in your truck, you're locking your doors and going to sleep. Yeah, because you have a job to do. Because some people actually gave a shit about their jobs. Obviously, Robert Ben Rhoades didn't give two shits about doing his actual job. The cops call his place of employment, where they were told, "Oh, Robert, he's horrible at his job. Yeah. He is one of our worst workers.
The worst white towel delivery man we've ever come across. half of his truckload seems to be missing at all times.
All covered in blood, missing threads. Yeah, it's just annoying."
But yeah, that's kind of it, really, from what I could see. That, like you said, there are books about it, which I think like, you've covered a couple of them and stuff like that. But I think an awful lot of that sort of thing kind of gave an awful lot of influence to, you know what I mean, an awful lot of stuff in pop culture.
Right.
Through, you know, and I think I always think it's a it's not. I want to say it's not like it's an overdone thing, but like I mean, it's one of those kind of tropes that makes an awful lot of fucking sense because of how easy it is.
But
in
it's
some
not.
ways,
But it's not. Anybody doing it now, it's not original. It's not an original thing to do.
No.
It's been used pretty much to death.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Yeah.
Well, thanks to our patrons, Willow, Quinn Fowler, and Nevin. Nevin, thank you again for your comment on the last episode. Keep them coming. If there's anybody out there that wants their email or their comments or their DMs or whatever read on here, or even if you don't want it read, just say, hey, all you got to do is say, hey, please don't read this on the podcast, and I won't. That's fine. But if you don't tell us that, I will read it on the podcast. But you get a hold of us. torturepod@gmail.com. Social medias, we are at TorturePod on pretty much all of them. You can rate and review Apple, Good Pods, Pod Chaser. You can still do that type of stuff. I know you can still rate on Spotify. Apparently you can't review on Spotify, leave a review. Otherwise, people wouldn't give 1 stars and then not tell us why. You can support us by going to our link tree, which is on our socials. Go to buymeacoffee.com/torturepod and buy us a pizza. You go, again, to our Patreon at patreon.com/torturepod, or go to redbubble.com/people/torturepod and get yourself some torture merch. Like the shirt I'm wearing, the brand new Brazen Bull shirt. I love it. I think it's beautiful. I do.
I think it's awesome.
It's my favorite shirt that we've had so far. Go on there and
mine is obviously the Sort Your Fucking Life Out one, but
yeah,
that is pretty fucking cool t-shirt. To be fair, we're gonna have to get one.
I like it.
Yeah,
you do.
Yeah, 100%. Have to. And at some stage, I'm gonna I might do a little giveaway for this bad boy.
The Aerostore.
Yeah.
You can give that away with that invest in yourself.
With the anus
drawing. Yeah, the anus.
Yeah. What we'll do is I'll sign the hat, right?
Yeah.
I'll send it to you. You can sign it. Slip a little 20 in there, and then somebody will get it with a drawing of an anus that says Phil Better on it. Or Phil Beller, wherever it's got. It's around here somewhere. I cleaned it up and we're showing the house.
Yeah, pack it up. Yeah.
But, yeah.
Also, thank you to our sponsors. You can support us by supporting them. That includes Pot Up for their sponsorship and thebeardstruggle.com and all the other sponsors that we have commercials for now. Hint for the first episode of Season 3. We use them for work. We use them for travel. We use them for death.
Anal beads.
18-inch double-sided dildos. God, thank everybody for listening. It's been 2 seasons, 2 years of doing this show.
Happy anniversary.
I've loved the majority of it. There's been some times where we were both like, I don't know about this. But for the most part, it's been fucking great. Dan, thank you for doing this with me for the past 2 years. And hopefully
thank you, but...
for many, many more.
I take tablets because of this show.
We need to get I know we got a talk space, and we need to get better help maybe too, and just talk to all the therapists.
Yeah.
Because be like, what are you here for therapy for? Have you heard my podcast? Stop doing the podcast. Fuck you.
If anything that has been discussed in this show affects you in any way, please go to redbubble.com, buy our merch. It will help us pay for psychiatrists. Maybe we won't be quite so bad.
Need it. Sleeping pills and a CPAP machine. Oh, Dan, any words of wisdom to leave everybody on our season 2 finale?
There's just 2 things I love in this world, Kevin. It's beer and it's bread. Now, my word of wisdom is if you want to have a sandwich, have a sandwich. If you want to have a beer. Don't have the 2 of them combined into one item. Unless it's brown bread, that's the Guinness brown bread thing I told you before, that's bloody delicious.
Sure.
That's okay. But not the other way around. The liquid into the solid is fine, but the solid into the liquid is not fine in this case. Go treat yourselves to sweet, sweet, delicious Wicklow Wolf bread and spread, sliced can. Or save yourself the heartache and don't.
And don't.
That is my
They're
word of
not
wisdom.
sponsored.
Do not drink this stuff.
They are not a sponsor. If they were, we were doing a horrible job of advertising.
Yeah. Wicklow Wolf, sort your fucking beer out. Okay?
There you go. All right, season 2 in the books. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with the beginning of season 3. Until then, take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. We'll see you.
Love you, Tay Tay.
Thank you.